Hey guys, welcome back to Mr. Click and Fix. Today we're going to be seeing how to make Kali Linux dual boot with Windows 11. So head over to your browser and search for get Kali Linux, and open the website out here, and you can see there's a lot of options available, and what you're going to need is the installer images. Click on that, and then you have to download the ISO file that you're going to be using to make the USB bootable. So the first one over there is the ISO file there. You go ahead and click on it and download it to your desktop. So you let it download, and then there's another software that you need to make a bootable USB from the ISO that you downloaded. So type in rufus.ie and head over to this web page, and you can see this is the software that we use. Click on rufus4.6.exe and save it to the desktop as well. This can be used to make bootable USB for any of the ISO files that you download. It could be Windows or Linux Mint or Kali Linux or anything at all. So once you have it, now you can insert a USB drive that you're going to be using to make the bootable USB of Kali Linux. So just use any 8 gigs or over USB drive and have it all backed up, because it's going to be erasing everything that's there in the USB. So once that's done and your downloads are done, you can see I've put both of them on the desktop. So I'm going to head over and open Rufus. So have your USB inserted at this point. You can go ahead and click select for updates, and I have a 16 gigs one, so I've inserted that. Now click on select, now desktop, and click the ISO that you downloaded, Kali Linux. Once that's done, it's gonna go ahead and show you start write the ISO in image mode, the recommended option, and click on yes, because it just needs to download a few files to make it bootable. So just go ahead and give the permission to do it, yes. And once you give yes, it should download the files, and make sure you back up everything on your USB, because from this point everything's going to be erased on the USB drive. Now what you're going to do is wait until the copying is done, and it's going to take a while depending on the USB that you use. I've used a 3.01, and I've also fast forwarded it, made the USB bootable. All you have to do is shrink the disk for the installation of Kali Linux so you can have it dual boot. So click on start, type in disk, and you should see something called create and format hard disk partitions. Click on that part, and you open up disk management using that. So you go ahead and select the drive that you use, which is your C drive, which has the Windows in it. Right click and go ahead and click shrink volume. What it's going to do is reduce the current C drive capacity so that you can install Kali Linux onto it without having to erase Windows 11 or 10. So you enter the space that you want for Kali Linux in megabytes. So I'm going to give, let's say, 40 gigs. So that's 40,000 megabytes. Now maybe I'll give 45,000. So I'm just going to give 45,000 megabytes and hit shrink. So as you can see, it'll shrink the C drive and give you an unallocated space of 43.95 gigs. If you like the video so far, please hit like and subscribe, guys. It helps me a lot and it helps me pay my bills. Now the next thing that you need to do is boot into your BIOS settings. So click on start menu, click on the power button, and hold the shift button down while you click on the restart. So that should give you the advanced restart options. So if you do that, your computer should load and boot up into a screen where it lets you access the BIOS settings without having to figure out what's your BIOS key. Now here you go ahead to the option Troubleshoot and Advanced Options, and then you select UEFI firmware and restart. So why we do this is to disable secure boot if it's enabled on your laptop, and enabling USB boot as well, and making the USB as the number one boot device. So head over, see, every BIOS is going to be different, but you should get to know how to do it. So you can go into, I think it's in security, and you see secure boot over there. Now head over to secure boot and make sure the option is disabled. If it's enabled, make sure it's disabled. So once that's done, you head back and search for boot options. Now let's start up and boot there, and you need to make sure that mine is the Kingston Data Traveler 3.0. That's my USB, so I'm going to bring it up to the number 1 instead of the boot manager. So use F6 or F5 key to do that. So that should bring up and down your list. Once that's done, hit exit and save changes, and yes. Now wait for the laptop to boot up into the Kali Linux installation one. Just give it time and it should be able to boot into Kali Linux installer. Now there you go. Now you can go ahead and click on graphic install to install Kali Linux using the GUI. You have a lot of options here, but let's go with graphic install so I can show you what needs to be done to have it side by side, and you have the option to boot up into both of the operating systems. Now it's going to show a bunch of things on a command line interface, and don't get panicked. Now select the language, continue, select your country, then continue. Once that's done, you use what keyboard you have. So mine's the American one, so I've put it there. And now it's going to scan your hardware and everything on your laptop to make sure the required drivers are installed while installing. So just give it the time it needs so it can process it. Now enter your Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi password. I've just skipped that part alone, so you can do it at your own time. So do that and wait for the verification of the password. Once that's done, it should let you configure your user accounts. So while you configure the user accounts, make sure that you give something that's easy for you to remember. Host name, I'm going to leave the domain name blank, and there you go. So you can insert any username that you want for your user. So I'm just going to give test out there and continue. And for password, I'm just going to give Kali. It's not advisable. It's advisable that you make your own strong password. Now done and continue. Now I'm just going to, since we've already partitioned the disk, I'm just going to go ahead and click on the next guided partition and then all files in one partition, because it makes it easier to install. So now as you can see, the number 5 is a shrunk partition, so that's what it's going to install it into. So feel free to check that and then hit on continue once you're satisfied. Now continue and write changes to disk, yes, and then you again click on continue. So it's going to partition all the disk and it's going to start installing the base system. And now once that is done, it's going to take a while. I just fast forwarded it. So now you can select what desktop environment you want and the tools. I suggest that you don't install the top 10 tools, as sometimes it might cause driver issues. So you select what you want, and once you have your selections, you can go ahead and click on continue. Now all you have to do is wait for the installation to complete. I fast forwarded it till the end so that you guys don't have to wait out there. Now once the installation is done, you can go ahead and click continue to reboot. Now at this point, when it shows sending requesting system reboot and the laptop turns off, you can remove the pen drive. and there you go. You have the boot screen for Kali and Windows. As you can see, the first one's Kali. We head into that for the first time just to show the Kali installation is done properly. There you go, it's booting up. Now you enter the username that you made, which is test for me, and the password I'm going to enter is Kali. Once that's done, that should boot you up into Kali Linux. There you go. So now you have your Kali Linux 2024.4, the latest version, dual booting aside Windows 11, and this is a very old laptop and it should be definitely compatible as well. Now we restarted it just to check if your Windows installation is fine. Now on the screen you go ahead and select Windows Boot Manager this time. There you go, it's booting up into Windows. So we have both the installations. All you need is some patience to do this. Now let's just verify the Windows installation as well. Done, voila. So you have your Windows installation. At any point, if you don't like Kali Linux and you've decided that you want to remove the Kali Linux installation, we can do that without affecting the Windows. All you have to do is go back into BIOS by pressing on the Shift Power and Restart, and then you head over to BIOS. This time you go into the startup and boot options the same way we went before, and you bring up the Windows to the first one. Instead of Kali being the first one, you bring Windows Boot Manager to the beginning. So once that is done, you exit saving changes, and this time your laptop should boot straight into Windows. And after that, what we are going to do is regain the disk space that we gave to Kali Linux so that Windows can get it back, and you can use the same method to install any Linux operating system. There you go. Now what we do is click on Start menu and search Create and Format Disk Partitions. Open it. You can see our C drive is the Windows, and the 41.66, that one is our Linux as we shrunk the drive. Right click on that and hit delete volume, and yes. Once that's done, it should become an unallocated space. Now what you're going to do is right click on the C again and click extend volume so that your Windows can take that space back from Kali Linux. And that's it. You've completely erased Kali Linux from your system as well, and now you only have Windows. Thanks for watching, guys.